The seat in House District 101 is up for grabs. We'll talk with one of the candidates tonight, and it's the story that just keeps evolving. We begin with that. Roll it, Ed. Well, on May 10th, 2019, everything changed for the Louisiana State Police, and something changed for the family of a man who's no longer with us. We start tonight with the story of Ronald Green. Eugene Collins is with the local NAACP, and he's here with us in studio again to talk about this story that you have been involved with for some time now. This took place on May 10th of 2019. Ronald Green was traveling to Florida to go be back with his family, encountered state police as he was pulled over, subsequently ended up dead. It was reported or said that he died as a result of a traffic accident. Now it is clear that that is not the case, that the man was beaten to death. We're working through the details from then. We have a new state superintendent over the state police, and there's so much to unpack. So let's begin at the beginning with you. How did you become aware of this story?
So we always start with the Ronald Green story as a starting point. Mm-hmm. But if we actually want to start with where this case started,
okay,
it started with August McKay. We put an information request in for August McKay's. He had used the N-word with another trooper, and we had got information that took place. So we put an information request in to identify if that was factual or not. August McKay later committed suicide when they executed a warrant at his house and found drugs. It was through that case that we started to notice some just irregular things, and we started to get more and more information about Ronald Green. I often tell people we found this case by mistake because we weren't looking for it. We were looking for August McKay, who had used the N-word with another African-American trooper, and we had heard about the just countless acts of racism, and Ronald Green actually birthed itself from that. I can remember running across some documents and contacting the family attorney saying, hey, there's something a little bit deeper with this case that maybe we should be looking into.
What triggered that for you, though? What did you see that triggered that?
It just didn't add up. It just didn't add up. It didn't, photos circulated, surfaced in a sense, that didn't really match up with the story that the family was being told about a single car crash, right? So these pictures were circulated, and all of a sudden we're getting all of this information that this was a bad interaction with Louisiana State Police, and we started asking questions. And when we started asking questions, things just started rolling out.
Man, it's so jarring because at no time before the last couple of years can I remember there being controversy, public in the media, surrounding state police. You saw it with local police departments and sheriff's offices around the state, depending on the story, but there was never anything negative written about the state police. And in the last half decade, we've had a couple of major stories, a few major stories that have popped up. So as this thing now has matriculated through the last 3 years, moving to where we are right now, there is an investigation into what really happened that night. Talk to me a little bit about what's been uncovered since this thing has seen the light of day.
So you found that not only did these troopers commit a criminal act on the side of the road that day in killing Mr. Ronald Green, we also saw what we saw. Well,
go ahead.
Oh, all right.
It's just Mel loud over there.
Gotcha. All right. Not only did we see the videos where Mr. Ronald Green was murdered on the side of the road in North Louisiana, but we also started to see what we knew were the beginnings of a cover-up. When I say the beginnings, the actual pieces that you start to see to know that this item has been covered up.
So what constitutes the cover-up?
One, the video was never logged in, right? If it's not for the act of a brave trooper by the name of Mr. Albert Paxton, we don't know about these things. And Mr. Carl Cavalier taking the actions of coming forward and actually being vocal about it, those are pieces that we couldn't have tied without those two individuals. We just saw something that wasn't right. They actually tied those things together. Good police officers came forward and made sure that people knew that this was a bad interaction with Louisiana State Police that resulted in a man's death. So it wasn't just what we looked at. It was the brave actions of these officers that came forward to let us know, like, hey, this is wrong and that is wrong and this shouldn't have happened. And their honesty is what really brought this case to fruition. And, you know, the sad part about all that, those two men are not employed at Louisiana State Police right now, even though you have people that was engaged in that cover-up still there.
Well, I want to come back and continue our conversation about that and then talk with Eugene about what the governor knew or did not know about this. And a lot of comments have been made over the last few weeks. Talking with Eugene Collins with the NAACP. And later on, who's up for House District 101? One of the candidates is here in studio. Back in just a moment. Back with Eugene Collins talking about the case of Ronald Green. And in the last few weeks, we have learned about text messages sent to the governor the night that all of this took place. The initial text message, just an advisory that there was someone pulled over in a traffic stop and subsequently died on the scene. And it was very vague in what we read there. And now people are wondering what the governor did or did not know. You know, from my perspective, I could believe he did not know or did not get the full story about what took place that night. And I haven't seen evidence yet that he tried to obstruct the truth from coming out. What are your thoughts on that?
So I'll disagree with you a little bit on that, right?
Okay.
I don't believe that.
Okay.
And the reason being is that when you look at Louisiana State Police in that year, and in custody deaths, there almost were none in that time period. So if it was a standard text, as he said, that was probably the only text he got in that time period of an in-custody death. Okay. Ronald Green is an international case at this point.
Yep.
To say that you got one probably standard text, as he mentioned, in that time period about an in-custody death at LSP, and not attribute that one text that you got to Ronald Green, that's almost statistically impossible.
I see what you, so your point is, because this happened and what we know with Ronald Green, putting two and two together.
It would have happened at some point, right?
Yeah.
And if it didn't happen, I think there's a larger concern. And even when you look at the language of standard, right? I have a problem when you say this is a standard text. because a in custody death is never standard because somebody lost a loved one. So to say that that was a standard death, Clay, they should have you working for them and doing this media, right? Because standard was a poor word to use.
Yeah.
And to say that it's standard when you don't have that many in custody deaths at Louisiana State Police to begin with, and certainly almost none in that time period, I find that hard to believe that you wouldn't have connected that text at some point. Now, did you know that May 11th? Probably not. But at some point over this course of almost 3 years, you never attributed that text? I find that hard to believe.
What do you believe he knew?
I believe he knew that Ronald Green was killed on the side of the road. I believe that the system knew that, right?
When do you believe he knew it?
Right around the time the NAACP met with him.
Oh.
I mean, like, we have.
So you met with the governor?
We have to factor that in as well, right? We met with the governor. I think it was around September of 2020.
Okay.
And we alerted him to this case at that time, just like, hey, governor, this is something. We bought him a file of information at that time, long before people knew about the case, right? So even outside of the text, I can attest to what we personally told the governor, right? The governor said in that meeting, it was somewhat dismissive of that fact, right?
What do you mean when you say dismissive?
He told us Colonel Reeves was a good man. Those are his words, exactly. You know, so I'm not making that up. There were other folks in the room that can attest to that. So I believe what the governor is guilty of is believing the state police, believing Colonel Reeves specifically, right? Believing Doug Kane. And that is the reason why we're sitting here today, almost 3 years later, without justice, because he believed that institution over the community members that were coming to him. And that's not what we signed up for when he was elected with almost 98% of the African American vote.
Colonel Davis. Now, in the interest of full disclosure, I know Lamar Davis, have worked with him on some community things. I personally like the guy. I've seen him in the community, and he's taken some heat on this thing, even though at the time he was not the person in charge of the Louisiana State Police. Your position on him, because I don't know how much he can do, but I want you to be heard on what you think about it.
His hands are tied, right?
Right.
And he's done some positive things since he's gotten there. I'll be honest with you, I think he should take a more aggressive stance.
Can he, though?
Well, that's when you get into the crux of can he and should he, those lines start to become a little bit blurred, right?
Okay.
But if I'm Lamar Davis, I walk in and I fire Doug Kane. There is no trust that you're going to build as long as somebody who everybody at this point knows was intricately involved in this cover-up, who had his phone sanitized the same month that Albert Paxson walked the files to the FBI. He had his phone sanitized, and he's sitting across the hall as your second in command, your chief of staff, your lieutenant colonel. Like, that's unacceptable. So even though I think Colonel Davis has done some positive things, I think Colonel Davis probably takes too much blame for this stuff, right?
Absolutely he does.
But that doesn't negate the fact that he can be more aggressive. Because let me tell you something, and I'm just going to be honest with you, Clay, nobody coming into that role as governor in the next 2 years is going to retain Colonel Lamar Davis as state police colonel. That's not going to happen. So Colonel Davis has nothing to lose but to be aggressive in this role.
I got less than a minute left. I want to ask you about the legislative investigation that's going on right now. Your thoughts on what Clay Shake Snyder is putting together?
It needs to happen.
Okay.
I mean, like, and this is for the sake of transparency. Because whether you believe the governor or not, transparency has not happened in this case. So anybody that's willing to bring transparency to this case, we need it.
I'll get you to come back as this thing commences. We could talk about this more. Will you come back?
I will come back.
All right. Let's talk about House District 101 next. The seat for House District 101 is up for grabs now that Ted James is the federal administrator for Region 6 of the Small Business Authority, and Vanessa Lafleur is a candidate for that seat. In fact, she is the candidate that Ted James has endorsed. He endorsed you on the day that he announced he was leaving the seat, and said he was hoping no one else would run. And you got a couple of challengers, but I want to first begin by asking you why you want to do it. 44,000 residents in House District 101 plus 44,000 plus. Why should they vote for you?
Well, hello.
Hello.
You start off quick.
I do.
Yes. Primarily because I've been serving this community for all of my life. I will put the 40 plus the 13 together, all of my life. I have a commitment to my community. And running was just an extension of what I've already been doing in the community. It gives me an opportunity to serve at a greater level and hopefully to provide a voice for the people that live in District 101.
I mean, you have an understanding about how governmental systems work. You were with the Public Service Commission. You worked at the Department of Revenue. You know the inside of the machine. How does that experience help you with what you're wanting to do in House 101? Honestly,
I think it makes me the most qualified candidate. The agencies that I've had the pleasure of working for were taxpayer-centric agencies. You've named the Public Service Commission. What did they do? They regulate the most important things that we touch every day, our water, our phones, those sort of public utilities regulation. And also the Louisiana Tax Commission that regulates property tax to make sure that's right statewide. And the Department of Revenue. All agencies touch taxpayers. And in my years at those agencies, I worked the legislative process for them.
Right.
So I know how to draft a bill on my own. I know how to work a bill through the process. I know how important it is to build coalitions to get things done for District 101.
You know, it's interesting, the time at PSC, in the last couple of years, we've seen the struggles people have had with utility systems. Craig Green was in here a few weeks ago. We were talking about that. After Hurricane Ida, the power outages, the struggles with phone companies and everything that happened there. You know, I often wonder why the legislature doesn't take a bigger hand in being noisy about the lack of consistent service for the public from these utility companies. What do you think about that?
I think they're trusting how the system is set up. Yes, they can be noisy. Yes, they can make calls on behalf of their constituents, but that is totally regulated by the Public Service Commission. You have the 5 districts, and those districts are the size of congressional districts. So I think the noisemakers, they're there, because I've worked there and I've seen them be there at the meetings and speaking on behalf of their constituents. But it's the way the system is set up that dictates how they communicate with the Public Service Commission.
What experience could you bring to changing that system, or at least catalyzing people talking about changing it so that these things are, I'm a fan of the public getting what they pay for.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah.
And I would like to see systems that hold accountable these big behemoth companies that don't always seem to care about what the public is or isn't getting.
So that's why you elect. Right? When you elect these 5 commissioners here, or you elect someone for District 101, make sure you're electing someone that will be your voice and that's not afraid to speak, that has done the homework, and that can speak on issues. I think that's what's important. And citizens being involved is important. You know, we have low voter turnout nationwide, but certainly in Baton Rouge, and we've got to stop doing that. Elections matter. And if you want a voice and a seat at the table, which we are entitled to have as taxpayers and citizens, then we've got to go vote and put people in place that will be our voice.
Let's talk about House District 101. As I said, it's more than 44,000 residents in the district. It's about 80% African American. For people who don't know, let's talk about that district.
Yeah, sure. It's Sherwood Forest. It is Monticello. It is Park Forest. It is up near Lanier, that neighborhood. It is a gumbo, honestly. We've got middle class and we've got struggling people in District 101 as well. So that, and we've got, you know, sort of communities that are so well established in District 101, which is why I love the district. I'm reminiscing of it because honestly, I've never lived anywhere else. That has been my zip code since we moved to Baton Rouge when I was a kid. So yeah, it's a gumbo district, which I love.
You know, I think that there are so many positives there, historical neighborhoods there. You mentioned Monticello and, you know, the history behind that area of the district. And I think it's integral to Baton Rouge, Sherwood Forest and all of those areas. What's the #1 issue facing that district?
It's got to be crime. And we can't shy away from that. And is that an issue that is taken up at the state level for funding purposes?
Yep.
It is. But that means that whoever's in that seat for District 101, which I hope will be me, you've got to work with your local authorities to figure out how do we deal with the crime. I can't leave that at the local level when I'm living in the neighborhood and I see how it affects my neighbors.
I'll tell you what, I want you to stay right there. We'll come back and continue talking with Vanessa about House District 101. The crime subject is a big one. We'll talk more about that. Ask her what she thinks about redistricting. There's a big thing going on in the legislature now. The House just passed a plan. We'll get her thoughts on all of that back in just a moment. Vanessa Lafleur is a candidate for House District 101. We're having a conversation about that. Going into the break, you mentioned crime as an issue, and it's an issue all over the city. And I'll ask you this before I move on. I don't often hear people talk about the factors that contribute to what becomes a crime-riddled area. Lack of economic opportunities, issues with the schools, all these things that kind of create these issues that we face. Government does have something to say about that. So how do you catalyze the kind of growth that diminishes the number of people who are in disinvested communities or diminish the disinvested community part of our community?
Yeah, I think, let's go back to the crime. How do you solve it? That's a big question, right? But you've got to bite, you know, how do you eat an elephant, right? Kind of thing.
One bite at a time.
One bite at a time.
Yeah.
So we've got to eat this elephant one bite at a time, and we've got to start first with getting community buy-in with how we do that. They've got to trust our officers. They have to trust the prosecutors. They've got to trust the leaders that we are listening to them. So let's go to people. Let's figure out how we can do. Now, I'm going to always be an advocate for having conversations in the home and having conversations in the churches, because those are great partners to help us reduce crime. I also think economics plays a role, and as you said, education, that we change the trajectory of communities when we educate children. You can change the trajectory of a nation if you educate women and girls. Think about what we can do in the Baton Rouge community. So we've got to make sure we're putting the funding there. I remember growing up, that I didn't have spare time to get into trouble as a kid, because there was always a program that my mother could put me in. I don't see those sorts of things.
Right.
We need to bring those sorts of things back to the community to give the kids something to do, because other than that, they make things up. And the things they're making up these days make us unsafe.
Not so good. Right now, the legislature is debating redistricting and talking about how the 6 congressional districts here will play. The House just voted to keep what we have intact with a single African-American congressional district. The argument against that is the state population now is a little bit more than a third African-American, so there should be at least 2 congressional seats to mirror that ratio. Your thoughts on that? And if you were in there, how would you argue in favor of at least a second African-American district?
First of all, numbers should dictate what this looks like and what our congressional seats look like. If the census tells me that we should have a second, and when I say we, black citizens of Louisiana are entitled to, based upon the numbers, an additional congressional district, I shouldn't have to convince you. Everything in you to do the right thing should tell you to let's create this, let's work together. Come, let us reason together. You know, Barry Ivy had the moment of the session when he said, we can't even talk about things like this and get them done. What I've seen, being just a spectator, is that everybody is so interested in keeping their own jobs and keeping their own districts in place so they can run again and being secure.
Right.
But does that get to what we are supposed to do and what we're called to do, which is look at these numbers, draw these districts. Don't hurt some feelings if you do that, but that's okay. Let me talk to you about numbers.
Quickly.
1876 and 2022, we have less members, black members, in the State House than we did then, post-civil.
How can people learn more about your campaign?
Lafleur4Louisiana.com.
Lafleur4Louisiana.com. Tenacious as all get out. And you know, are you optimistic quickly about where Louisiana is headed?
I am optimistic because I have to be. I have children that live here.
Wow. Wow. All right, next week we're going to talk about the status of education in the parish with Adonica Duggan and Liz Smith. They'll be here in studio. Until then, you guys have a great and safe weekend. See you next week.